Hi there, my name's Damien and welcome to my Excel script demonstration. So this is part one of two videos where I'll show you the capabilities of Excel scripts, specifically the ability to load data dynamically into an Excel file via Power Automate, but also how to create a table and extract data from an existing Excel spreadsheet. I'll walk you through my cloud flow and then my Excel script. In this demo, we're going to see how to load data into an individual cell, into a column, into a row, or an array into multiple rows. So let's jump into the demonstration. So here we are in our familiar Power Automate interface, and you can see here I've got cloud flow with a manual trigger. We've got two scopes for part one and part two, and in today's video I'm going to cover the content of part one, which is all about how to populate an Excel file dynamically. So jumping into that scope, we've got two actions. The first action is a compose, and it's here that I've supplied an array of data, and I'm going to use this data to populate various rows within my Excel spreadsheet. So you can see here we've got an ID, we've got a first name, last name, we've got an email address, we've got a profession, and we have a country, but these are all defined within the array as R4, var1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'll see why that matters later on. So jumping into the Excel script action, we've now, you can see we've now got the location defined, the library defined, and the Excel file, which I've appropriately called just a file. And then I'm calling on the script, which I'll walk through shortly, called Populate Excel file. So the first two variables that I've got defined here are var1 and var2. And the great thing about this interface here is that it's completely dynamic. Whatever I define in that Excel script will appear here as fields for me to populate as part of my action. So these two examples here, hello and 1, 2, 3, are actually defined as a string and an integer. So if, for instance, I was to change the number 1, 2, 3 into world and just jump out of that field there, you'll notice that almost instantly I've now got an error message. If I click on that flow checker, it tells me that I need to enter a valid number. So we'll go back to supplying 1, 2, 3, and we'll see the error message clear. We've got our third variable, which is a multi-variable with 6 different variables, and here I've got the column headers that I'm going to use in my demonstration. So whilst within the array that I supply, the variable names that I'm using are not really that meaningful, I'm providing a list of meaningful header values here, and I'll use that to populate my Excel document. And the final variable that I've got here is my output from the array above. So the array from above has got 50 records in it, and we're going to populate our Excel file with that array. So I'm now going to jump into my Excel spreadsheet, which is called just a file, as we mentioned before, completely empty. And we're going to go to the Automate tab and open up the All Scripts. So today we're going to populate the Excel file, and I'm going to go into Edit. And we're now going to look at the opening part of my function, which is where the variables get defined. So like I mentioned earlier, we've got example variable 1, which is a string, example variable 2, which is a number, which is why we had that enforced check on our Power Automate Cloud Flow, allowing me to alert whoever was using that script that they can't use a string within a number field. And then we have our variable 3, which is our multi-variable, and we'll see that defined in more detail below. And we have our array variable here, which is defined by the classic square brackets. So if I just scroll down to the bottom of the script quickly, I just want to cover this part here, which is the definition of interfaces. And this is where we define the wider part of the array from above. So these particular variables here are all strings, and within this array definition here, our first one is a number, and variables 2 to 6 are strings. That would be the ID number and then the first name, last name, etc. So So jumping back up to our script, most scripts will open with this line here, let the selected sheet equal the active worksheet, and that allows us to work with the sheet that we have open here. And then what I aim to do in the demonstration is show you how to populate select fields, or select cells, sorry. So cell A1, as I've highlighted here, will be populated with the variable 1. B2, which again I'll highlight up here, will be populated with variable 2. C3 is going to be populated with a concatenation of variable 1 and variable 2. And then cell D4 is going to be populated with a sum of 123 and 1111, because Excel is clever enough to realize that with the first variable being provided as a number, it will do arithmetic, and hopefully we'll be able to return the number 1234. So moving on, I now have a function that will reverse a string, and the purpose for me including this in the demonstration is I wanted to make sure that my header was unique from the values that I'm going to populate here. So my aim with this particular part is to populate the column F, rows 1 to 6, which you'll see defined here, F1 to F6, with the dimensional array here using the variables from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can see the call there to the reverse string function. So ID, first name, last name, etc. will be reversed as a string and populated into these cells F1 down to F6. On the next part of the function here, we have creating the header row using, again, the multivariables. So unlike it being a multi-dimensional array, it's just a flat array here, and we've got, again, the variables 1 through to 6. And this time round, our range is from A to F on row 8. So you can see what I've highlighted there, and also the highlight here. And then the final piece of the puzzle is starting from row 9, which you can see defined here, using a for loop and a variable I, and also the length of our array, which in the case of my example is 50, but if you chose to supply an array that was 10 or 15, Excel would go through all of the various rows and populate them. So A to F and then onwards, using this loop here. And you can see the definition of the starter row being used as a variable for the column A to column F. And again, the population of those rows there. And then just to finish things off, you can return a response back to your Cloud Flow. And so in this case, I have returned the string that Dama Bird has loaded however many records into Excel, and the demo has completed OK. So I'll jump back into cell A1. I'm going to close my script window there. I'm going to jump into my Cloud Flow, and we're going to go ahead and test it. Like I mentioned before, I'm not going to cover the second scope in this video. I'm going to do a separate video for that. So hopefully you can watch on afterwards and move on to my second video. So that's the first part completed. If I just jump into my file, you can see here that the word hello, 1, 2, 3, the concatenation of hello and 1, 2, 3, and also the sum of 1, 1, 1, 1 plus 1, 2, 3 has calculated 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can also see the field names here all in reverse. So we've got our row header, and then we've got all our data from 1 to 50. And so whilst you can see here that my script has converted this data into a table, which would now be callable by an action within our Cloud Flow, I'll cover that separately. So if this demonstration interests you, I also have another video on Excel invoices, how to populate an Excel invoice template, which you can download from Microsoft's site using Excel scripts. And again, that uses arrays to populate the transactional information for that invoice to the template file. So that's the end of my first demonstration. Hope you watch the second video, and please make sure that you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.